a passionate instigator and dynamic problem solver. Dr. Kevin Ross Emery, the host of the Dr. Kevin Radio Show, will be taking you outside the box, behind the curtain, and identifying the load of BS we are fed every day. And now, Dr. Kevin.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the Dr. Kevin Show. And this will actually, because of the way that all of the holidays hit this year, this will be the last Dr. Kevin Show of the year, because I'm going to be off the next two shows, and I will be looking forward to greeting you with 2022 with none other than Matt Connerton and from Matt Connerton Unleashed. But this is going to be the last show because we're coming right up to happy ho time. Rob Stewart from innercenter.org is joining us for our last live show of the year, which is our planetary influences. What are the planets doing to us now? Rob is going to tell us, and then he's going to recommend several strong cocktails that you can drink while you get through this upcoming period. Aren't you, Rob?
Well, yeah, we'll see about that. But thanks for having me on, Dr. Kevin. I appreciate it.
So I've got a question for you. So first of all, Merry Happy Ho Ho.
Yep, same to you, yeah.
I always like to say Merry Happy Ho Ho because I figure that shouldn't offend anybody. And if anybody is offended when I say Merry Happy Ho Ho, then they were looking to be offended, and I was glad I could oblige. I'm done with 2021. I'm done with political correctness, and I'm done with people who want to spend their whole life with their panties in a twist because it's the only way they know how to live. And it seems like there's a lot of that around. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I understand. I really do.
So now we've got all of the friendly, warm, and fuzzies out of the way for the show. I'm going to let you dive right in and tell us what's going on. I am going to say it is 55 degrees out. I am in New Hampshire. I'm looking at a gorgeous moon in the sky. I'm outside walking in a sweater. I had my top down today when I was driving around in my new car, Mercy, and was enjoying as my Santa Claus hat was blowing in the wind with the top down. So it's just a regular old December day, right, Rob?
Yeah, far from. And yeah, there's a lot going on astrologically, and it really is an intense month here in December. And I see it in my own life. People have been talking to me about the different things that are occurring in their lives, and it's just this is sort of an intense period of time, particularly in relationship. And we'll get into all this. Venus and Pluto. Usually, this conjunction of Venus and Pluto is only a day or so, but because Venus is going retrograde, we're having an extended period of time with Pluto-Venus in Capricorn. So it's this real transformation, this sort of make it or break it relational energy that we're all moving through and transforming through. So that's a big part of what's going on astrologically right now. But we'll get into all those details. But the first thing I wanted to say, yeah, go ahead, Dr. Kevin.
No, I was just going to say, so let's get started. Lots to talk about. So.
Yeah, lots to talk about. So December 18th, that's in a couple days. That's Saturday. That we have a full moon in Gemini. And full moons, if you've been listening to the show, it's a time of culmination. It's a time of fruition. It's a time to let go of what's not working and keep what is working. And there's always a bit of oftentimes emotional tension that's going on during a full moon because the sun, our wants, our personal expression, and is opposing the moon. The moon is our emotional needs, our safety, our comfort. And so oftentimes with a full moon, it's sort of this, inner tension that can occur. But through that tension is the letting go of what's not important and hanging on to what is and moving forward with that. And this full moon is in the sign of Gemini. And Gemini is about, curiosity. It's about talking, exchanging information. It's processing information. In Gemini, we can be distractible. We can be overstimulated. There's a lot of mental energy in Gemini. And so this full moon is a time when perhaps the mind is, clicking over 20 times too fast or whatever it is. And there can be a lot of mentalization, I guess, if that's a word, of things in life and sort of trying to break it apart into its little pieces. And the thing with the full moon here is, what is it that we can simply let go of and see the bigger picture? What is it that we can let go of those details? And of course, looking at the details, of course, but letting go of the obsessive need or the areas where we're overburdened in those ways. So these are some of the energies with this full moon. This full moon is occurring while Venus is conjunct Pluto as well, within 1 degree. So, and the moon is making a quincunx to that conjunction. So relationships, the sort of inner, deeper excavation in relationships, bringing up the stuff that has been poking behind the scenes or whatever it is, those sort of deeper aspects that need to be brought to the light to be healed and transformed through. This is a great time for that in relationships, and there's certainly a lot of transformation occurring in those areas.
So you've used an interesting word. I'm going to take a second, and I'm going to have you define that word. What does that mean when it is quintuxing it?
Right. So a quincunx is, it's also called an inconjunct in astrology. It's basically when two planetary bodies are making a 150-degree angle between the two. And it's a really difficult aspect. It's the type of thing that kind of can throw you off course or throw you, it's like being on a horse and feeling like you fell off your horse or something. It's these two energies like oil and water that don't always mix. And so with Venus and Pluto conjunct, quincunxing the moon, there's this, basically this sort of deeper transformative energy and the challenges and rebirthing and birthing process that's occurring in relationships emotionally can be a bit upsetting right now, or there's things that we're learning and growing through what does it mean? What does relationship mean? What do you want in relationship? Venus and Pluto and Capricorn. What are your long-term goals? What is it that you're building towards? Self-responsibility. That's another Venus and Capricorn thing. So there's this real, we live in a world of paradox, and this energy here is really speaking to the need for comfort, the want for safety, and that nurturing, and also needing to deal with these deeper aspects that occur in relationships, these things that need to be worked through and dealt with. And in the full moon in Gemini, there's something about communication and talking about it, which is very interesting because Mercury is squaring Chiron right now, which gives this sort of energy of, can I say what I want to say? Can I think what I want to think? Can I, this sort of hesitation to communicating. But this is a period of time where that communication is really helpful and provides this sort of transformative energy, the fuel that it needs at this point in time.
So this quincunx, or this inconjunct, is a disruptive energy. It's disruptive to the two aspects, to the conjunct Venus and Pluto, and to the moon. That in some way it's disruptive. It's disruptive to both of them.
Right.
And
mm-hmm.
and because the moon is in Gemini, anything that's happening in Mercury, because Mercury rules Gemini, is going to come in for some extra little bit of energy. It's going to even play more prominently. And I'm kind of explaining this a little bit for our listeners who have varying levels of like, well, why would he talk about the Mercury? Like, what does that have to do with it? Yeah. And what I would say also is that when we talk about the play out between Chiron, the wounded healer, and Mercury, it's our communication is being, if we are not careful, our communication will be negatively impacted by our wounds. Our wounds will make us hesitate instead of speak freely, or our wounds may make us communicate something other than what we want us to communicate. And this is a challenge for you to recognize where maybe you're not speaking your full truth to yourself or somebody else because you're feeling somewhat triggered around the communication. I mean, so I just wanted to give like a different spin. Does all that make sense, or am I off on a
absolutely
in a different universe? Go ahead.
Really well said. And this full moon really speaks to, just like you said, this communication relationship, that idea that we all, of course, have these wounds, and sometimes it's a challenge to speak about what you need to speak about. That's important to you in relationship. And so this full moon is really highlighting those types of themes. And while it can be disruptive, the sort of idea of embracing these paradoxes we have in life of two seemingly different energies, the hesitation to speak about things and the need to speak about things, and finding ways to balance this in your life is really highlighted at this time.
And I want to make it clear to people that when he talks about Venus and relationships, he's not just talking about romantic relationships.
That's right. Yeah.
And, because oftentimes people, they hear the word relationship in astrology and they automatically think it's romantic because, that's the dime store astrology you find in the paper, if you still find papers anymore. It is the 21st century. Anyway, so, but also with this transformational energy and Venus going over it, and then backing up and running over it backwards, and then going forward and running over it one more time just to make sure it did the job, which is how I always visually see this. It can be talking about your personal integrity value system. And that what is your relationship with your set of values, your integrity in the world? What has meaning to you? And so this could be an external relationship of value, but it could also just be how you value, what you value, how you value. And you may find that this is a time where things that you used to value, you realize you don't really value anymore, but you're just doing so out of habit or pattern. Hey, does that also ring with you, Rob?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well said. Well said. I mean, this is all occurring in Capricorn too. So there is something about leveling up, and like you said, what is it that you value? Venus is about what we value. It's about relationships, including friendships, and relationships of all kinds. And in Capricorn, we're really being asked to be realistic, practical, taking responsibility, being mature with our emotions. And so this whole month and a half coming up is really about reviewing, revising, looking at relationships in your life, looking at what you value in your life, and really it's a time to level up. It's a time to reassess, and we'll get into this sort of Venus retrograde themes, which we're sort of going into right now. But this things that are occurring in life, in relationships, and friendships in your life right now, even financially, these are themes that we're going to be revisiting over this next month and a half. And there's opportunities to level up and bring more personal responsibility to the table in those areas.
Well, and the quote that comes to mind, and for the life of me, I can't remember who was the first one that said it, because I know many people have said some variation of it, including myself, but is, this is the kind of energy where you make that distinction that it is better to be disliked for who you are than liked for who you are not.
Right. Yeah, that's a good one.
And there is an aspect of this Venus, especially in Capricorn, doing the Macarena with Pluto, that you suddenly lose that desire to hold up facades because they make you popular or liked, or they keep the peace, and you're more likely to step out and realize that the inner piece of your authenticity is worth more than the external piece of being who people want you to be. Because that's the kind of transformational work Pluto would do in this combination. At least that's my perspective. Thoughts?
Yeah, right on. And, Pluto can be, it's really burning away those things that are really no longer necessary. These old compulsions, old security mechanisms, these old intense sort of reactions we have, and these old subconscious patterns. And Pluto's really burning away. With Venus here, it's burning away these old things that really we're being asked to let go of in your relationships, in your relationship with money, too. That's another Venetian theme. And so this is a real time to let go of those old things, and but it's not always easy, but through that birthing process, there's transformation.
Okay, well, I think we've beat that horse dead. So where do you want to move? Do you want to move into the actual Venus retrograde and what that means, or is there something else on your list? I don't want to skip around on you.
Yeah. No, the Venus retrograde, so that, that's occurring just the day after this full moon. So, this full moon really sets the stage for this energy, this over this next month and a half. Venus goes retrograde on December 19th through January 29th. And basically what that means is that Venus will look like it's moving backwards in the sky, but in reality, it's just that the Earth is overtaking Venus in its orbit. So from the perspective of the Earth, it appears as though Venus is moving backwards, much like if you're passing a car on the freeway, that car appears to be moving backwards, but you're just simply going faster than it relative to it. And so Venus is one of the closest planets to Earth. And so when Venus goes retrograde, it really does have a powerful effect. When a planet goes retrograde, there's something about reassessing, reevaluating, looking back upon reviewing the past. And with Venus, it's about relationships, as we've been talking about. Again, romantic, friendship, whatever type of relationships you have in your life. It's also about one's value system, as you talked about, and also our finances as well. So over this next month and a half, I know we're coming up to a break here. It's a time to review, reassess, and take stock and adjust, make the adjustments that are needed in those areas.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Coping 19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
If you're feeling increasingly lonely right now, you're not alone. It's totally normal. Even though we may not be able to get together in person, connecting virtually with friends and family still gives you a chance to interact with people and may help raise your spirits. Join a virtual book club, set up group text chats, or online video coffee breaks with coworkers.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Dr. Kevin Show here on OMTimes. This week we're doing planetary influences. We're seeing how what's going on in the skies are affecting what's going on in our lives. And I am doing that with Rob Stewart from innercenter.org. That is Rob Stewart, innercenter.org. If you don't have your chart and would like to understand your chart and how to better use this once a month insight into the skies to live a more empowered and aware, self-aware life, you can reach out to Rob and he'll be happy to do your chart, take the time for you to understand it and apply it. As once a month here on the Dr. Kevin Show, he joins us so you can take what's going on in the skies, what's going on in your astrology, and see how you can make the best decisions. Right, Rob?
That's right. That's right.
And this is a live call-in show, so if you would like to be part of this conversation, if you have any questions, you may do so by calling in at 202-570-7057. Again, that number is 202-570-7057. So, I wanted to make a comment about what your closing remarks were. I'm not sure if you were done with the Venus retrograde, because if there's more you want to say, I want to make sure you say that, but I want to make sure I comment on it before you move on.
Yeah, no, go ahead. We'll talk more about the retrograde, but yeah, go ahead.
So, we are talking about that it's coming up to this Pluto, which is this planet of transformation you hear us talk about. And it is the transformation that I always kind of look at as like the glacier that is slowly changing the terrain that it is crossing over. And it's just, but it's just like moving like this, woolly mammoth. Boom, boom. And you will feel it. But it's not fast. But when another planet hits it, it will speed it up. When a planet's doing what Venus is doing, and we're talking about these places where the Venetian areas of your life are likely to be getting an overhaul, a Pluto transformational beauty spa special, you're going to kind of get an idea of how this is playing out in your life and what are the areas you're going to have to look at as this Venus goes over the Pluto. When the Venus which has already happened, or is happening right as we speak. I'm not exactly sure of the degrees. Rob can clear that up. He's got his little ephemeris in front of him, and I do not. But then it's going to back over it again, which means it's going to come back up again. And you may have thought that you came to some conclusion or decided something wasn't worth it, or you could live with something, or whatever it was, and you're going to back over it, and it's going to come back up in another way, and it's going to basically shake you a little bit more and say, do you really think that was sufficient for what I was trying to get you to do? Do you really think that kitchen floor is clean? I don't know. I don't know that the mop really scrubbed that dirt. And then it will go over one more time. And then those energies start to move forward, so that transformational energy gets applied into your life. But if you have your chart, if you're somebody that knows a little bit more about astrology or want to look at making astrology a thing that you can work with to help you, you would want to look at where is that Venus and Pluto in what house is it in your life, and then when is that crossing over? And that little time that it crosses over, what comes up? And no, you're not done with it. Don't try to pack it away. It's like saying, oh yeah, I guess we're all done with bathing suits, summer's over, and then suddenly you have 2 weeks of an Indian summer and you have to dig those bathing suits back out again. So I just wanted to kind of put that in perspective at how much this kind of information and how much you can work with it and how much it can help you. Rob, I've said my piece. I'll shut up now.
Yeah, no, right on. And, so basically the first, Venus was directly conjunct Pluto on Saturday's December 11th. So, but with these, it's been pretty darn close this whole week, of course. But Saturday was the direct conjunction, and like you said, Venus is slowing down and stopping, and on December 19th, and moving backwards. And it will retouch Pluto on, of course, Christmas Day, December 25th. And so some of these themes, like you said, we're getting the opportunity to review and reevaluate and really level up. In Capricorn, there's something about being honest with ourselves and really getting to the bottom of what do these relationships mean in my life? Friendships, relationships with family, spouses. This is a time to really review that. And over the next month and a half, this is a great time for healing in the relationships in your life. And there is a sort of make it or break it energy as well with this Pluto of, being willing to go to those depths that are needed in relationship to heal, to transform, and to rebirth. And then maybe some other relationships are just simply falling away because they're unneeded in some way, or they're no longer healthy for you, or different long-term goals, different, wanting different things. So over this next month and a half, these are some of those themes, and it's also a period in time when, like I said, it's about revisiting old things. It's not a great time, astrologically speaking, to launch a new product or new venture financially, or it's really a time to reassess, look back, review, take stock. Venus retrogrades occur every 2.5 years or so. The last one we had was in the fall of 2018. So these things occur very infrequently, Venus retrogrades, but they're a great time to review, reassess everything relationship-wise in your life and your value system.
So,
and yeah.
So though I inked the deal to give birth to this business that I bought that I'm still not quite able to talk about yet until after the first of the year. The official announcement to the world is the first of the year. I'm like, oh, great. Even though I made sure its astrology chart was really strong, if you remember, we talked about it.
Right.
I'm like,
right. Yeah.
Well, but, I'm buying an existing business. And really, our initial energy is going to be to spend time reviewing what it's done and what we need to change and what we want to keep and what we want to build on. So it probably is just perfect, now that I say that.
That's right. You could, with any type of retrograde, particularly Venus, you can plan on, the bigger launch at a different time, and in the meantime, revamp and really get things review what it is, the long-term goals, and all those sorts of things. Those would align astrologically with these energies, for sure.
Okay, so keep going, young man.
All right, so December 21st, we have the Sun entering Capricorn. And we've talked a bit about Capricorn because this Venus retrograde is occurring in that sign. Capricorn's about emotional maturity and being realistic in your life, practical. Capricorn's about, this three-dimensional life, the reality, like physical reality. We're not a bunch of souls just flying around with no consequence. There's physicality and this material world, and there's limitation and restriction in this world that we're in, of course. And so, and real life comes with its burdens. It comes with its responsibilities. It comes with accepting responsibility for your own actions, for your own, being your own authority in life. And when the Sun is transiting through the constellation of Capricorn, life is sort of shining a light on this area of our lives to bring more discernment, more practicality, more of these themes into our life, and really level up. So it's a great opportunity for these things through the end of January. Capricorn's known for career too. How do you show up in the world? What's your purpose in society? What authority do you have within your society? How do you show up in public? This is a great time to really improve those areas and reassess your goals. This is a time to do those things.
So this is a time for me to change how I show up. I can stop showing up as quiet and shy and meek and get a little chutzpah into my energy. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I would say. It's just a great time to really reassess even things like public image or who you show up to be in the public, who you're seen, how you're seen from far away, how you and again, that it shows up in so many ways, but accepting personal responsibility. Just sort of repeating myself on these themes.
I show up far away like I show up close, old and fat. You know what? What are you going to do about that? Go ahead.
Gosh. Well, I mean, so December 24th, we have the third Saturn square Uranus aspect. We've had two of these aspects earlier in the year. And when Saturn is squaring Uranus, there's something about the old and the new, this friction between old and new views. There's a friction between conditioning and societal acceptance, acceptance by society, and personal liberation and freedom and independence, and restriction versus unrestriction. This is a theme that's been playing out this whole year. with regards to, all sorts of things in society. There's been more restrictions this year, of course, with COVID, and the sort of in people's lives, where's freedom? Where do I have to be socially responsible? The sort of friction between these types of themes in our lives really shows up in a big way this year. And in other ways, it shows up in terms of the society. The idea of, a great example is all these rocket ships are blasting off by these wealthy individuals in our society, and the idea of trying to break free this sort of Uranian energy, but then Saturn is there. This friction between, hey, the hard knocks of life are here in this world. And others are trying to, I guess it could be argued that many people aren't interested in rocket ships into outer space and tourism into the lower atmosphere or whatever it is. So there's this real friction this year between, breaking free and staying the same. There's a lot of ways it shows up.
There's a real dichotomy between spending billions for a joyride and having billions that are in poverty and starving, while the rich get richer and the government supports them to do so, and it's getting mighty irritating. Do you mean that kind of friction? I'm just throwing that out at
that's a good one. Exactly. This friction between Saturn is personal responsibility in society, and Uranus, freedom, liberation, personal freedom. These are showing up in so many different ways, and likely, we each find ourselves on both sides of the different issues in this types of freedom versus restriction. This is really showing up in the psyche in a lot of different ways here in our society. And Uranus is in the sign of Taurus, and Saturn is in Aquarius, and this really does have implications on the financial system. The ruler of Taurus, when Uranus and Saturn are squaring, is Venus, and Venus is directly conjunct Pluto. So on December 24th is when this is exact. This really speaks to transformations in the banking system and financial systems and one's own financial world, sort of the shedding of the old and embracing something new. This world is really going through sort of this transformation in financial systems. And I think, going into next year, we're going to see more and more of that. The idea of digital money, perhaps, or different value systems, or a lot of these sort of innovative changes that are occurring in this world.
Yeah, which of course, help give more of the malnutritious, more of the poor and more of the suffering, especially in third world countries. It's just so much better for them that they can access it off their smartphone that they don't afford or can't or don't use. But I think it's really great that they can have better access to wealth of the world. Yeah, it just warms the cockles of my heart. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, well,
And we'll be right back.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Vox Novus, the new voice. Vox Novus, the new dimension. Vox Novus, thought and movement leaders who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate our rapidly changing world. My name is Victor Furman. Join me every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio for Vox Novus, the new voice.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to the last segment of the Dr. Kevin Show on the last live new Dr. Kevin Show in 2021. Planetary Influences with none other than Rob Stewart from innercenter.org. Rob, take us out in this last segment about what else we can look to for the stars, and then we'll see if we can give them an upgrade to be better in 2022. What do you think?
Yeah, that'd be nice, huh? Yeah. Well, you know, there's just a lot of intensity in life right now, and the astrology, like we've been talking about, it really does focus on relationships and our value systems. And on December 29th, we'll have Mercury, Pluto, and Venus all directly conjunct with one another. And so again, this sort of is it's a time where speaking your truth and having those conversations and really being willing to go to those depths, Pluto, in your personal relationships can be really fruitful, though it's a time to tread lightly and know that we can all be triggered, particularly in a day when Mercury is conjunct Pluto and Venus. So it's really a day when energies can be really intense, but by working with that in a helpful way in conversations and willing to be vulnerable in those conversations that where there's real transformative power, that would be one of the optimal ways of working with this energy throughout this whole month and a half, but particularly December 29th. On that day, we also have Jupiter squaring the nodes of the moon. And what this is saying is there maybe this is a time to let go of old assumptions, of old belief systems. Jupiter is just entering the sign of Pisces on that day as well. And so Jupiter in Pisces is about surrendering and collaborating, co-creating with the universe and sort of letting go of that, the ego, the small self needs. And so December 29th and going into the new year is a real transformative time to let go of the old beliefs that are limiting and restricting in your relationships, any old assumptions or old ways of seeing things. This is a great time to really shed those own painful shoes that have grown too tight, the old limiting beliefs that keep us from having those fruitful conversations, or whatever those old limiting beliefs are that are helping you stay in old patterns that are limiting. It's interesting that New Year's Day, New Year's Eve is notorious for times of setting intentions for the year ahead. While astrologically, it's not usually an optimal time to do so. But this New Year's Eve, this New Year's Day, is a fantastic time for that. It's a fantastic time to set new intentions, to really be honest with oneself, to level up. We've said that many times before. Easy to say, hard to do, of course. And to have those difficult conversations in the relationships that you need. Is there anything you want to throw? Is this touching anything you want to talk about, Dr. Kevin?
Absolutely. This is a time that I'm going to invite those of you that are listening to, first of all, identify when you are in communication, especially with people that are close to you, especially with people that you care about, that you know care about you, that you first ask yourself the question, who do I perceive has the highest communication and emotional IQ in this situation at this time? Because that is the person that will naturally take the lead if the communication is going to go well, if the communication is going to be fruitful, if it may be tough but worth it. Sometimes you can have the higher level of communication IQ and the higher emotional IQ, but something makes you feel like they're not going to get it, or they're not going to understand, or somehow I have to bring it down to them. And I'm not talking about in an arrogant, like I'm better than you, because they've got things that they're better at than you do, than you are. We're all great at some things, and we're all not as good at others. So this isn't about inherent value or worth. It's what are the strengths and weaknesses. And for those of you out there who have this both emotional and communication strengths, it's the time for you to level up the person that you are having these communications with, lovingly and gently. And you start there by doing good basic communication. If they say something and you know that you're feeling like you're going to be triggered, or it seems like it's the same old thing it's ever been, then you have to stop and go, what am I not hearing? If they have to keep saying it, it must be because they perceive I don't get it, or I don't hear it, or they wouldn't keep saying it. So what is my role here? How can I up-level these communications? To say to somebody, when you say that, this is what I hear. I'm not saying that that's what you mean. I'm telling you what I hear. Is that what you wanted me to hear? Take the communication and have it thoughtfully and self-aware. Don't fall into your old habits and patterns of that you say this, they say that. Step outside of that and go, tough communications can be great communications when handled well. Everybody can walk out of it feeling more empowered, more connected, more assured of who they are, or that they were heard. And so as we go in this time, especially the 29th, 30th, 31st, 1st, let's keep in mind, on Christmas Day, relationships are going to be at the mercy, so to speak, of a Venus-Pluto conjunction. Christmas Day is what? A day all about family and relationships. And then that's going to roll right into this aspect. Many people leave the Christmas holidays feeling slightly wounded or triggered. They suddenly thought that their childhood didn't bother them anymore, or they learned how to deal with the obnoxious sibling or parent or some situation, whatever, only to find that when they're back in it, that maybe they weren't quite as evolved as they thought they were. So a lot of things are going to be going on a lot of levels. And as you step into this particular time, and I don't want to run us out of time because I don't know how much more stuff you have to go over, Rob, but I really want you, as Rob was saying, to up-level, to say, I am going to be at my very best communicator level, which means I need to be a really good listener. And then I have to ask good questions. Not question, I'm not questioning them. They're not the witness. They're not on trial. It's not a courtroom, but it's open-ended. I really want to understand question. I really want to use this time and energy to break an unhealthy habit or pattern that has risen up between us, or maybe has always been there, but we've never been known how to break out of the dysfunctional dance of it. And these energies are inviting you to do that. So I want people to walk into this time from the 24th all the way to the 2nd, where you're getting major after major bump from all of these different aspects, from different planets bumping you in different places. Kind of like you're at a rave and, you know, and a mosh pit, and you're all over the place because you're getting hit from so many different directions. But I want you to be excited about it. I want you to say, I am aware that this is coming. I am self-aware enough to not be a victim of my own triggers. I can be the person who guides this into all of the great opportunity it is providing to me. Or I can feel like a victim of the Titanic floating around with, you know, a life raft who's losing air. It's your choice, but it really is a choice. So as Rob talks about these very intense times, look at it as an invitation to get excited about, because you're aware. It's like being excited about doing a triathlon because you're up for the task, because you know what's coming. And that's what I would invite you to do with this time from the 24th to the 2nd. So that's what I wanted to say, Rob. Thoughts, comments?
Yeah. Regarding communication and relationships, one of the things I would say with this Mercury and Pluto and Venus, and to throw on what you were saying, is also not only, of course, listening to the other person, but really listening to what you're saying and listening to oneself. That's really, I'm sure we've all know, really helpful in those conversations where speaking about these things deeper beneath the surface, to really listen to what we're saying, because oftentimes there's a tone or there's something that's really triggering sometimes that we're doing in a conversation, and so with Mercury, Pluto, Venus, listening to oneself, what we say, and sometimes sometimes we're saying things we don't even know what we're saying. And so really listening to oneself will help bring clarity, I think, if there's any cloudiness occurring in relationships and the communication. And then the last thing I wanted to say, on the 1st, January 1st, we have the Sun trine Uranus, Mercury trine the North Node. And there's a new moon on the 2nd, January 2nd. So the new moons are great times for setting intentions, just like a New Year intention for the new year. And with the Sun trine Uranus, this is time to break free, to let go of all these old limiting beliefs, old assumptions we have in relationship, the old things that are just no longer needed, and that you don't need to carry into the new year. And so it's a great rebirthing occurring in relationships. It's a wonderful time for healing in relationships. And so remember that during this period of time, because that's really the truth of Pluto. It's about rebirth, transformation, and healing, and there's great opportunities to do so. And New Year's Day and January 2nd is a great time to really set new intentions as this Venus retrograde is occurring through the end of January.
So here is the question that I didn't get a chance to ask before we run out of time. And now is the perfect time for me to ask it. And put you right on the spot, Rob. We are at the end of 2021. 2022 is right around the corner. And my question for you is, are you going to join the Dr. Kevin Show for 2022 and continue Planetary Influences? What do you think?
Well, I'm fully on board, and yes, yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate
Cool.
This is the second. This marks the second year anniversary show for me on the show, so I really enjoy it. And sometimes a bit scattered. I feel like I've been rather scattered today, and I apologize to listeners. But it's really been fun. I really enjoy it, and I enjoy these conversations.
Well, we really enjoy having you. You bring a lot of value every month with Planetary Influences, and I look forward to continuing this in 2022. You're a merry, happy ho-ho, Mr. Rob, and all my listeners on the Dr. Kevin Show.
Happy holidays, Dr. Kevin.